How's it going, guys? It's Joe. Welcome to the channel. Today is going to be another Grand Arena matchup, and it's going to be in the 3v3 format. Unfortunately, we don't really have a choice here. Personally, I haven't been having too much fun with 3v3, but what can you do? I'll still try my best, and I'll still try and get some content out there for you guys to see. So currently I'm going to be going against Dancing Saber here. He's got about 1 million more GP. He's about 2.1 in the top 80 GP, and he's got a ton of good mods as well. And more importantly, he's also got both Galactic Legends here, guys. So it's going to be a tough matchup, and I won't spoil it for you guys. I'll just quickly show you his lineup here. He's got all the meta teams. He's modded pretty optimally on all his teams here as well, when I just had a look. So at the bottom here he's got Rey, Kylo Ren and Mask, and at the top there he's got Geos and a bunch of Separatists with Grievous. So the interesting thing about 3v3 is we really don't have anywhere to practice anywhere in this game other than 3v3 Grand Arena, which comes around probably once a year, once every 6 months, something close to that. So my first matchup is against Rey here, and the problem with matching up with Rey and using Kylo Ren is that you can't typically get to your ultimate as quick as you usually do. My usual strat that I use is trying and utilize SF TIE Pilot in this team, as his AoE actually helps to get to that ultimate pretty quickly. But Thrawn is really good in this match as well, as the ultimate goal here is not really to stop Rey from getting to her ultimate, because it's quite inevitable for her to get to that ultimate. However, if you can somehow try and stop her from using Whirlwind, so like you can see there, she was only able to use Whirlwind once and drop Thrawn. So I actually will survive her ultimate here, because she doesn't have enough damage to be able to split it between two characters. So just after her ultimate there, I use my ultimate, and this is where I'm able to drop her. Not good in banners, but I'll take that against Rey any day. And she's even more difficult to beat in 3v3. Tell me how you guys have experienced it, or how you feel about going against Rey in 3v3. I know there's a lot of people out there that are struggling. They're working towards strategies to 2-shot Rey or 3-shot, or even more than that. So in the next matchup here, I'm going to be using my bounty hunters against this first order lineup. There's no pre-taunt, which is great. Trying to work towards my payout, but I want to keep in mind that if I kill off one of these first order characters, Sith Trooper's going to go off and just obliterate our team here. So I got an ability block there, which was pretty handy, and he couldn't utilize his second ability, and forced him to get to use basic there. So got my execute timings pretty good, and I still got my payout as well. Pretty straightforward matchups. So this gentleman has decided to hold on to a lot of his offensive teams, whereas I did the opposite. I placed a really heavy defense, and as you can see from the thumbnail, he actually tripped on a couple of my defensive teams, which I'm quite happy about. So this matchup is pretty straightforward as well. I like having R2-D2 here just to get BB-8 that extra bit of turn meter in the beginning, and it helps to have the invisibility as well. So the idea is try and control Kylo Ren unmasked and OG Kylo while trying to drop that first order officer. So once he's down, the name of the game is just try and get as much turn meter as I can to Rey, and that way I can optimally use her third ability and just drop their turn meter as much as I can. So currently Kylo Ren Unmasked is ability blocked, so I utilize that third ability on OG Kylo instead. And I'm just gonna whittle down on Kylo Ren Unmasked's health here. And the great thing about this team is Rey's second ability, which is the assist ability, applies healing immunity, which if you guys play a lot of First Order, you'll find this team is really tough to beat, especially if there's a lot of debuffs on the field, because they're going to end up regaining all that health and protection just from the Kylo Ren Unmasked lead. But if you've got healing immunity, that's not going to be a problem. So at this point, I'm not even thinking about banners. I really just want to get the full clear. As in my previous matchup, it was so messy and I couldn't get the full clear, unfortunately. However, I did get the win, so I'm still quite happy about that. I find that not a lot of people like 3v3, and that's fair enough because we're kind of coming in blind at the moment. However, I have to say, I'm still having fun in this game, although I feel like a lot of my investments in characters and things I haven't been able to utilize as much as I could have, and it probably would have been so much more fun if it was 5v5. So in the back line here, we've got some Geos and Dooku, got a Scoundrel team there and a Finn-led Resistance team. So the idea here is that since I placed a really heavy defense, I've got to be really efficient on offense and utilize the appropriate teams and not using overpowered teams against the defenses here. And that way I make sure I get enough firepower till the end. So I'm going to use this JKR team here against this Grievous. And I gotta say guys, Jolee is the MVP here, as this matchup, I had not practiced 3v3 with JKR before. So I've decided to just apply the usual strategy that I do with JKR in 5v5, which is to mark B2 Super Battle Droid here and possibly try and get his health down. But as you're about to see here guys, I'm losing a lot of health just from the damage that Grievous is outputting at the moment. So I was a little bit worried there. They started going for Jolee, and I was a bit reluctant to drop B2 straight away, as I know Grievous is gonna have to use another AoE, and I wanted to make sure I had enough health when that happens. So I've got a stun here. I'm gonna pass this ability on to Grandmaster Yoda. He's gonna do another AoE, and look at that, JKR is just hanging on by a thread. I lose JKR, but I get a revive. So this is why it's critical to have Jolee in this team. So I'm going to lose Grandmaster Yoda there as well, but I'm going to pass this turn meter onto Jolee, and I'm going to slowly drop B1 Battle Droid here. However, I've got Mark here now, so I'm going to mark Grievous, try and get a stun on, and hopefully I've got revive after this so I can get Grandmaster Yoda back just before I drop Grievous here, which I do. And he goes straight for Grandmaster Yoda as well. So it's such a mess, guys. However, I don't think I was doing enough damage to Grievous here, and I could potentially cycle back to getting Grandmaster Yoda back in the game again. which I eventually do, and I get Mark here, which stuns Grievous, and this eventually gets us the W. So the hard part about 3v3 as well is deciding which teams are right for the opposing team and making sure you're not undersizing or you're not underestimating that team. So my strategy here was try and go for the most menacing teams to begin with and work my way down to the weakest team. So at the moment I've been having a lot of trouble with Geonosian teams, so I decided to use my gas team here as I didn't have anyone else to use gas against. And as you can see, the Geos are doing really well at the moment. They're actually really dropping gas fairly low. And I know Geos aren't as effective on defense in 3v3. However, you can't underestimate this team. It's still really solid. Obviously, there'll be no match against gas, but they were able to drop him here. And I was worried at one point that I may lose one of my characters. So try to get those dispels off on the brute in the back. And this is actually my 501st team that's left over after I placed the rest on defense. And that was good timing from Gas to get up at that point. I get GBA out of the way, and eventually I get Spy as well. So I found it interesting. I still had Mando here, I still had CLS, I had Bastila Shan and Shakti. So I utilized my CLS lead here with Han Solo and Chewie against this Newt Gunray lead. So I'm gonna try and target Droideka straight away, get him out of the game. And this CLS team just makes real quick work of this Newt Gunray as well. At this point, I'm just waiting to get to Chewie's dispel ability. However, Newt Gunray decided to show himself there, and I'm able to target him with CLS. And CLS, Han Solo and Chewie in 3v3 are absolutely incredible, guys. This team is insane, and that's why I saved them on offense to ensure that I get the win here. I've seen them beat Gas on defense despite not having 3PO if you have them relicked high enough. So this next battle, I'm going to be using a Traya lead, full Sith Triumvirate here. Dooku's doing a ton of damage with his right post there, lost a lot of health on Traya. I have no choice but to utilize Isolate on Sun Fac here. And Dooku can be really annoying in 3v3 as well, guys. This is a pretty solid defensive team, as that Archduke leadership actually provides a ton of offense. I believe it's about 30% offense increase for Separatists. I got so much regeneration for this team though, and I'm gonna go straight for Poggle with that Annihilate. At this point, I'm just looking to regenerate a little bit of protection on my characters. $453 banners there. So this Finn lead here is another team that's pretty solid on defense from what I can see. I've had a couple guildmates utilize this on defense with a ton of success. So if you guys didn't know, back then Finn was a solid lead as before JTR was around. He was the one lead that allowed you to control the opposing team with exposers and potentially not allowing the opposing team to take a turn. So at this point I'm trying to control Finn here with the stun. However, that's a really highly relicked Scavenger Ray and she's doing a ton of damage here. So I'm going to keep stunning her as much as I can. And I'm going to try and drop her with this AoE as well. Once she's down, I'm going to go for Resistance Trooper here. And just keep control of Finn here. Get those stuns to go, and 452 banners there. So over at the top here is an Asajj lead Night Sister team. And I just decided to throw in my bounty hunters here with Wat Tambor. Although I wasn't intending to get to the Disintegrate, it's always good to have Wat Tambor on the team. Gives you that little bit more DPS. And it would be nice to get to the payout as well. So that was the other goal. However, that Night Sister Acolyte is really annoying. It can be really annoying because they're going to be hidden behind a taunt and they're going to be stealthed. So it's good to have Mando on this team as he can target pretty much anyone he wants. And in 3v3, Mando is not as effective, as you can't really get to his payout that quickly, unfortunately. Although his leadership allows for you to just hit anyone on the opposing team and still work towards the payout. As you can see, I'm at 95% now, and I got the payout. However, she is hidden through stealth, so I had no choice here but to use that on Zombie, which was a waste. But it's always fun to see that the animation behind that Disintegrate. And this is a pretty awesome team as Grief Karga allows for that regeneration and protection, and as well as Wat Tambor there. So we've got Scoundrels left here in the back and your typical Old Republic team as well. So the top team, guys, that team doesn't apply enough damage. So to me that just looks like a timeout team. If you don't have characters that allow for you to apply enough damage, eventually this team is going to make you time out. Fortunately for me, I've saved my resistance heroes here, and I spread the Inspire fairly early on. And if you relic these guys up, they're gonna do a ton of damage, as you can see over here. I'm making quick work of L3 there, 20k damage. And now I can finally go for Vandor. That's 18k regardless of a non-crit basic, which is pretty solid. And I even got my health and protection back, which is awesome as well. So my opponent here, he was pretty efficient, other than the two defensive teams which he had to take his time with and beat using 2 battles each. And lastly, we've got the Old Republic team here. So I just utilized my leftover Jedi that I've got, and I still had 3PO, so he came in handy as he was able to apply Confuse on Zalbar, and that prevented Zalbar from getting the taunts. So what I've learnt from this 3v3 matchup was it's always good to have characters that bypass taunt. So characters like your bounty hunters, 3PO is pretty solid, as well as he can get around taunters, confuse them, and that way they can't taunt. And I was pretty lucky that this gent held on to a ton of his offensive teams, decided not to place them on defense. For the win there. And I got up to Bronzium as well. Over the top here with ships, I'm going to be using my negotiator team. I'm going to do a negotiator mirror match. And I was going to try and get Sunfac in there, however I decided to bring in the Millennium Falcon, as I didn't place my usual rebel ship squad on defense. So what I want to do here is try and get that ability block onto Houndstooth, which I did, which I'm quite happy for, as well as that is purely RNG, and it can be quite troublesome if you can't get that ability block to stick, as you're going to be stuck behind that Houndstooth's taunt. At this point I bring out 5's ship and I use the special ability there as everyone's ability blocked. I'm going to use that special ability from Ahsoka to dispel that taunt. And I'm going to use Undying Loyalty. And I'm really looking forward to get Plo Koon out on the field there, as I can finally dispel all those debuffs and as well as get my health and protection up. So I didn't actually utilize the Millennium Falcon in this battle, but it's still good to have just in case RNG wrecks it for you. But I'm quite happy with that 63 banners there. I'm quite sure my opponent got a really efficient banner score against my ships, as I actually placed Hux's Finalizer and most first order ships on defense just to change it up. So there you have it, guys. 2461. I'm not entirely sure if that's a decent score, but I'm happy with that. And I'm quite happy with the result of Grand Arena today, and I actually had fun despite it being 3v3. I hope you guys have had the same experience, And thank you guys for watching. As always, I'll see you on the next one.